The world outside has finally surrendered to the quiet embrace of night. The last horse-drawn cart has rumbled past, its wheels a fading whisper on the cobbled lane. The distant murmur of village chatter has dissolved into the soft velvet silence that only truly descends when the moon claims the sky. Here, within these ancient walls, time itself seems to hold its breath. This isn't merely a building of stone and wood. It is a repository of ages, a slumbering giant filled with the dreams and thoughts of countless generations. And as the world outside sleeps, a different kind of life begins to stir within. Welcome to the Forgotten Library. Its name, not etched in stone, but whispered in the rustle of turning pages and the soft sigh of air through ancient arches. It is a place beyond the grasp of hurried daylight, a sanctuary that unveils its true self only under the patient gaze of the stars. The scent here is one of deep antiquity, a rich, comforting aroma of aged paper, of polished, darkened wood, of the subtle, earthy perfume of forgotten dust motes dancing in the faint light. Sometimes, too, there's a faint, ghost-like whisper of old fires, long extinguished, but whose warmth still clings to the very essence of the hearthstones. And now, meet the guardian of whispers, the Night Librarian. Not a figure of grand pronouncements or dramatic entrances, but one of quiet purpose. Their silhouette moves with an almost imperceptible grace through the hushed vastness of the main reading hall. The soft padding of their footsteps on the worn stone floor creates no echo, only a faint rhythmic sound like the steady beat of a heart attuned to silence. Their cloak, a deep, unassuming grey, seems to absorb the last remnants of fading light, making them a part of the shadows themselves. They carry not a torch, but a small, carefully shielded lantern, its warm, golden glow casting long, dancing patterns across the towering bookshelves. This is not just a job, it is a communion, a dedication to the quiet sanctity of knowledge. The promise of this night is not one of thrilling chases or dramatic revelations. No, it is a journey of gentle exploration, a slow, unhurried unfolding of time itself, like turning the pages of history, one by one, with patient fingers and a receptive mind. Each book, each scroll, each faded map holds not a loud secret, but a quiet, intimate whisper from an era long past. And tonight we will simply be with these whispers, letting them drift into the stillness of our own minds, guiding us deeper into a peaceful slumber. The main reading hall stretches out before them, an expanse of hallowed ground where countless scholars once bent their heads in study. The ceiling soars high above, a vaulted masterpiece of dark, aged timber, crisscrossed with beams that have borne witness to centuries of quiet contemplation. Moonlight, pale and ethereal, filters through the tall arched windows, casting long stark rectangles of silver onto the stone floor, illuminating motes of dust that swirl lazily in the still air. Empty chairs stand sentinel around long, heavy tables, their surfaces smooth and cool beneath the librarian's fingertips. One can almost feel the imprints of forgotten elbows, the ghosts of murmured discussions. The Night Librarian begins their rounds. It is a ritual, a silent dance with the passage of time. They do not hurry. Haste has no place in this sanctuary. Their lantern, held steadily, casts a warm, intimate circle of light, pushing back the deeper shadows that cling to the furthest corners of the hall. The air, though still, is not stale. It breathes with the accumulated wisdom of generations. It is a unique scent, impossible to replicate, a blend of lignin and leather, of dried ink and forgotten wax seals. They approach the first set of shelves, towering sentinels of knowledge that reach almost to the vaulted ceiling. Each shelf groans faintly under the collective weight of its contents. The books here are myriad, thick, leather-bound tomes with heavy brass clasps, slender, delicate volumes with faded silk covers, and rough, parchment-bound manuscripts tied with simple twine. Their spines are a tapestry of varying textures and hues, from deep, resonant browns to faded sun-kissed yellow. Some are adorned with intricate hand-painted designs, now barely discernible beneath layers of ancient dust. With a soft sigh, the librarian reaches for a feather duster, its bristles soft and white. The act of cleaning is meditative, a gesture of reverence. The duster glides over the spines, releasing tiny clouds of golden dust that shimmer for a moment in the lamplight before slowly settling again. Each book is touched, acknowledged. A slight adjustment here, a gentle push there, ensuring every volume rests perfectly in its place. The subtle rustle of pages, disturbed by the gentle airflow, is a soft, comforting whisper. Outside, the wind begins to pick up, a gentle breath against the massive stone walls. It does not howl, but sighs, a sound that weaves itself into the fabric of the library's stillness. Through a high window, the librarian catches a glimpse of the moon, now half obscured by a drifting cloud, its light momentarily dimming, then re-emerging with renewed serenity. A distant hoot of an owl breaks the silence for a fleeting moment, a wild, melancholy call from the depths of the ancient trees surrounding the library grounds. These are the library's natural companions, the quiet sentinels of the night. The Night Librarian's journey leads them now to a less accessible part of the library, the restricted section. It is not guarded by locks or spells, but by its very inaccessibility, a quiet reverence for the fragile treasures it holds. Behind a seemingly solid wall panel, a clever mechanism, triggered by a hidden lever carved with a forgotten symbol, slides open with a soft, almost imperceptible groan of ancient wood. The air here is noticeably cooler, heavier, carrying the profound scent of untouched antiquity. A narrow, winding staircase of worn stone descends into the gloom. Each step is carefully placed, avoiding the slight creak that some of the older steps possess. The lantern's beam struggles to pierce the deep shadows here, revealing only glimpses of rough-hewn stone and the occasional glint of moisture on the walls, hinting at the earth beneath. This is where time truly stands still, where the most delicate and vulnerable echoes of the past are preserved. At the bottom, a small circular chamber opens up. It is not grand, but intimate, lined with shelves of dark, unvarnished wood that seem to have grown from the very rock. Here, the books are not merely placed, they are cradled. Most are ancient manuscripts, laid flat in protective wooden boxes lined with soft velvet. Some are vellum scrolls, rolled tightly and tied with faded silk ribbons, stored in long cylindrical containers. The librarian gently lifts the lid of one such box. Inside lies a manuscript. Its vellum pages are creamy, almost translucent white, aged to a soft, warm hue. The ink, once vibrant, has softened to shades of deep brown and faded crimson. This is a truly ancient text, perhaps 1,000 years old. The intricate calligraphy, each letter painstakingly formed by a scribe's hand, seems to hum with silent dedication. One can almost see the quill moving across the page, feel the patient concentration of the monastic scholar working by candlelight, their breath misting in the cold scriptorium. What thoughts filled their minds as they transcribed these words? What dreams did they chase in the quiet hours of their own nights? They gently unroll a section of a scroll, its brittle edges crackling softly like dried leaves. This particular scroll appears to be a collection of fragmented lore, not grand historical accounts, but tiny, almost poetic observations. A detailed drawing of a flower long extinct, its petals rendered with astonishing precision. A short, melancholy song about the passage of clouds across a distant mountain peak. A series of curious, almost childlike doodles in the margin of a text on herbal remedies. Perhaps the bored musings of a young apprentice scribe. There is a small, elegant recipe for a potion of gentle dreams, made not from fantastical ingredients, but from common lavender, chamomile, and a few drops of pure spring water, left to infuse under a new moon. The instructions are precise and poetic. Gather lavender at twilight when the dew has settled like tiny pearls upon its blossoms. Add chamomile dried under the gentle gaze of a summer sun. Infuse in the purest spring water. collected beneath the new moon's silver crescent. Let it steep until the light of the morning star is barely visible. The ingredients are simple, the process slow and deliberate, designed not for immediate effect, but for a gradual, calming influence. Another recipe describes an elixir of clear thoughts, a simple infusion of peppermint and rosemary steeped in warm water. It promises not intellectual brilliance, but a quiet clarity, a soothing of the busy mind. The librarian carefully notes the delicate process. Allow the herbs to dance in the steam, releasing their essence slowly, patiently, as a secret is revealed to a trusted friend. These are not potions of power, but rituals of self-care, ancient acts of soothing the soul and mind. Among the pages, dried botanical specimens are carefully pressed, their colours muted by time, but their forms still perfectly preserved. A delicate fern frond, its intricate pattern a testament to nature's artistry. A cluster of tiny, forgotten wildflowers, their fragile beauty forever captured. Each specimen whispers a tale of ancient gardens, of sun-drenched meadows, of quiet walks through fragrant woods. The alchemist's study is a testament to the power of nature's simple gifts and the gentle art of harnessing their soothing qualities. A different kind of treasure awaits in the map room, located on an upper floor where the vaulted ceiling is lower, creating a sense of intimate vastness. Large, polished oak tables dominate the center, their surfaces worn smooth by countless hands tracing invisible paths. Giant rolled maps, secured with twine, lie in wooden cubbyholes along the walls, waiting to unfurl their hidden worlds. And in a corner, a collection of dusty globes, their faded colours hinting at continents long since renamed or forgotten. The air here carries a different aroma, the crisp, almost salty scent of aged parchment, mingled with the faint metallic tang of dried ink. The Night Librarian carefully unrolls one of the larger maps across a table. It is immense, depicting a known world that is both familiar and utterly alien. Coastlines are sketched with bold, confident lines, but the interior regions, especially those far from established trade routes, dissolve into fantastical imagery. Here, the cartographer's imagination truly took flight. Vast, unexplored deserts are populated by curious, gentle beasts, a long-necked, plant-eating creature with scales like polished jade, or a furry winged mammal with eyes like liquid gold. These are not monsters to fear, but wonders to behold, the delightful inventions of minds that sought to fill the void of the unknown with beauty. Mountains rise in dramatic, impossible spires, their peaks shrouded in clouds painted with soft, swirling greens and purples. Rivers meander in unlikely loops, sometimes flowing directly into the sea, sometimes disappearing into subterranean caverns marked with a single cryptic symbol. Whole civilizations are represented by whimsical architectural drawings, floating cities tethered to giant air balloons, or underground dwellings carved into massive crystals. These aren't maps to guide a physical journey, but invitations to a dreamscape, a world where the boundaries of reality were fluid and inviting. The cartographer's vision whispers from every line. What dreams did they hold as they meticulously drew these imagined landscapes? Did they truly believe in the mountains of whispering echoes or the sea of shifting sands? Or were they simply expressing a universal human desire to explore, to imagine, to populate the empty spaces with wonder? The librarian's fingers trace a faint, dotted line across a section labelled Terra Incognita, unknown land. A thrill, not of fear but of quiet curiosity, passes through them. What if? What if such places once existed, or still exist, just beyond the edge of our perception? The map room also contains a collection of celestial charts. Unrolled carefully, they reveal intricate patterns of constellations, drawn not just as simple stars, but as mythical figures, animals, and even fantastical machines. The names are lyrical: the weaver's loom, the dragon's breath, the shepherd's crook. These charts were not merely for navigation. They were stories etched onto the fabric of the night sky, guiding ancient travelers not just by physical light, but by shared myth and imagination. The librarian softly hums a forgotten tune, a lullaby perhaps, that might have been sung under these very stars long ago. Beyond the main reading hall, nestled between the archivist's journal nook and the entrance to the clockwork chamber, lay a space rarely visited even by day. It was the silent gallery of portraits, a narrow, elongated corridor where the former benefactors and head librarians of this very institution gazed out from their canvases. These were not grand, imposing figures, but rather quiet, thoughtful faces, their eyes holding the stillness of century. The air here was cool, almost reverent, carrying only the faintest echo of dust motes, dancing in the slender beams of moonlight that occasionally pierced the high, narrow windows. The Night Librarian paused here, their lantern held low, its soft glow illuminating each face in turn. Some portraits were vibrant, their colours still holding a surprising depth, a woman with keen, intelligent eyes and a faint, knowing smile, holding a scroll in one hand. A stern-looking man with a neatly trimmed beard, his hand resting on a closed, heavy tome. Others were fated, their features softened by the relentless passage of time, their expressions now merely suggestions of lives lived long ago. The canvas stretched tight over wooden frames, sometimes creaking almost imperceptibly as the wood responded to the subtle shifts in the night air. Each portrait whispered a different story, though none were spoken aloud. They spoke of dedication, of quiet scholarship, of lives spent in the company of books. The librarian imagined the rustle of their academic robes, the soft scratch of their quills against parchment, the profound silence of their own working night. One old man, with a wispy white beard and spectacles perched on his nose, seemed to be perpetually caught in a moment of deep contemplation, as if forever lost in the intricacies of a complex philosophical argument. His painted eyes, though unmoving, held a deep, quiet understanding. Sometimes the librarian would stand here for a long moment, simply absorbing the collective quietude of these silent guardians. It was a comforting presence, a reminder that they were but one link in a long, unbroken chain of keepers. The subtle scent of old oil paint, a rich, earthy aroma, seemed to emanate from the canvases themselves, mingling with the library's familiar perfume. It was the smell of history rendered in pigment, of human lives distilled into enduring images. The gallery was not a place for conversation, but for silent communion, a shared understanding of the timeless pursuit of knowledge. Adjacent to the silent gallery, through an archway draped with heavy, now faded tapestries, lay the scriptorium. By day, this room might have been a bustling hub of activity, filled with the rhythmic scratching of quills, the rustle of parchment, and the low murmurs of scribes at work. But by night, it was a cavern of echoes, its long, empty tables like silent altars to a forgotten craft. Moonlight, more generous here than in other parts of the library, poured through a series of tall, narrow windows, creating a lattice of silver on the stone floor. The tables themselves were grand, made of thick, dark oak, their surfaces smoothed and darkened by countless elbows and the pressure of diligent hands. There were shallow indentations where inkwells once sat, and faint, almost invisible scratches where a scribe might have tested a quill. The air here held a faint, almost metallic tang of old ink, mingled with the dry, crisp scent of parchment. It was the ghost of industry, a quiet testament to the laborious process of creating the very books that filled the library's shelves. The Night Librarian imagined the scene as it once was, rows of bent backs, each scribe meticulously copying texts, their faces illuminated by the flickering glow of tallow candles. The quiet concentration, the dedication to precision, the rhythmic dip of the quill into the inkwell, followed by the careful, deliberate strokes across the vellum. Sometimes a subtle cough or the soft clearing of a throat would break the profound silence, only to be absorbed again by the steady rhythm of work. On a nearby shelf, A collection of old unused quills lay nestled in a wooden box, their feathers still intact but brittle with age. Next to them, small dried cakes of ink, their colours muted and hardened, hinting at the vibrant blues, reds and golds they once produced. The librarian gently picked up one of the quills, feeling its lightness, imagining the precise grip of a scribe's fingers. It was a tangible link to the past, a silent tool that had helped preserve the very knowledge contained within these walls. The room whispered of patience, of repetition, of the profound power of slow, meticulous creation. Stepping through a heavy iron-bound door at the far end of the scriptorium, the Night Librarian emerged into a small, enclosed courtyard. This was a private space, rarely seen by visitors, a secret garden within the heart of the library. Here, the open sky was a vast, inky canvas, speckled with countless stars that seemed brighter and more numerous than from anywhere else. The air was fresh and cool, carrying the damp scent of earth and the subtle, sweet perfume of night-blooming flowers. In the centre of the courtyard, a shallow, moss-covered fountain murmured softly, its gentle trickle of water a calming, continuous sound. Around it, ancient flagstones, worn smooth by time, were partially covered by creeping ivy. The garden was wilder than one might expect, not manicured but allowed to grow with a gentle, untamed beauty. Twisted, ancient rose bushes, their thorns softened by shadow, offered dark, velvet blooms that released their exquisite fragrance only after dusk. The Night Librarian walked slowly along the flagstone path, their footsteps muffled by the soft moss. They stopped by a patch of luminescent fungi, glowing faintly in the deepest shadows, like tiny earthbound stars. These were the mooncaps, as they were sometimes called, thriving in the damp, cool air, adding a touch of quiet magic to the forgotten space. Their light was soft, almost imperceptible, but unwavering, a constant presence in the darkest hours. Lone nightingale, hidden deep within a shadowy ancient oak that towered over one corner of the courtyard, began its song. It was a pure, clear melody, rising and falling with a melancholic beauty that filled the night air. The notes seemed to hang suspended, each one a perfect crystalline sound, weaving themselves into the fabric of the library's silence. This was nature's own lullaby, a living testament to the enduring beauty that existed even in the most secluded corners of the world. The gentle perfume of the night-blooming jasmine, a heady, sweet fragrance, drifted on the cool breeze, wrapping around the senses like a comforting blanket. It was a moment of profound peace, a quiet communion with the natural world. Beyond the tranquil courtyard, a small, unassuming door, often mistaken for a gardener's shed, led into a hidden conservatory. This was not a place of vibrant, colourful displays, but a sanctuary of rare, delicate plants that thrived in the library's unique microclimate. The air here was warm and humid, a gentle contrast to the cooler stone of the library, carrying the soft, earthy scent of damp soil and the subtle, almost shy fragrance of unseen blossoms. Moonlight, filtered through the arched, grimy glass of the conservatory roof, cast a diffused silver glow over the leafy expanse. Rows of terracotta pots lined low wooden benches, each holding a specimen of quiet botanical wonder. There were plants with leaves like velvet, so dark a green they appeared almost black in the dim light, their surfaces catching the faintest glimmer like polished stone. Others had slender, graceful stems that climbed delicate trellises, their tiny, translucent flowers barely visible, but exhaling a whisper of sweetness into the air. This was a place where time truly slowed for the plant world, where growth was a gentle, patient unfolding. The Night Librarian moved with particular care here, their presence as soft and fleeting as the breath of a passing breeze. They would occasionally mist a delicate fern with water from a small, ornate copper watering can, the fine spray creating a soft, almost inaudible shh as it settled on the leaves. Each droplet clung for a moment, shimmering like a tiny jewel, before absorbing into the thirsty foliage. The sounds here were minimal, the gentle drip of condensation from the glass roof, the soft rustle of a broad leaf as the librarian carefully adjusted a pot, the faint, earthy sound of damp soil settling. Among the more common, yet still rare specimens, there were stories. A particular plant with leaves that unfurled in a perfect spiral was said to only bloom once every decade, its single luminous flower opening for a mere hour at the peak of the darkest night. Though the librarian had never witnessed this elusive bloom, the knowledge of its potential, its quiet patience, filled the space with a sense of hopeful anticipation. It was a living testament to the library's hidden wonders, a secret held by the earth itself within these walls. The air, rich with the scent of verdant life and damp earth, was a deep, calming breath. Beneath the oldest foundations of the library, accessible only by a hidden stone door disguised within a forgotten alcove, lay the catacombs. This was not a place of dread, but of profound antiquity, a cool, silent labyrinth of storage and forgotten foundations. The air here was distinct, colder, drier, carrying the scent of ancient earth, of undisturbed stone, and a faint, almost metallic tang that spoke of deep geological time. The lantern's glow seemed muted here, swallowed by the sheer immensity of the darkness. The passages were narrow, carved from the bedrock itself, their walls rough and uneven. They spiraled downward, deeper into the earth, their coolness a comforting embrace against the memory of the living world above. This was where the library stored its truly ancient, sometimes fragile, sometimes simply immense artifacts. Things too large or too delicate for shelves, or those simply awaiting reclassification from centuries past. Stacked against the walls, covered by heavy, dusty canvas cloths, were unidentifiable forms, their shapes hinting at forgotten machinery, ancient statuary, or even massive rolled tapestries. The Night Librarian walked slowly, deliberately, their footsteps echoing just slightly on the stone floor, a soft, rhythmic tap-tap-tap that was immediately absorbed by the vast, encompassing silence. The very walls seemed to whisper tales of geological time, of the Earth's slow, inexorable movements. The coolness seeped into the bones, but it was a refreshing cold, a clarity that sharpened the senses. Occasionally, a faint drip of water could be heard, falling from some unseen fissure, creating a quiet, regular plink, plink, plink that resonated softly through the subterranean quiet. Here, in the deepest stillness, the librarians sometimes allowed their mind to drift into contemplation of the truly immense spans of time. The rocks themselves were older than any book, any civilization. They held the original stories of the earth, written in layers of sediment and mineral. This was the library's true foundation, not just structurally, but chronologically. It was a reminder of the fleeting nature of human endeavor and the enduring power of the world beneath our feet. The profound silence, broken only by the librarian's calm breathing and the gentle, distant drip of water, was a balm to the soul, an invitation to a deep, unburdened rest. Ascending a winding, rarely used spiral staircase from the uppermost floor of the library, the Night Librarian finally reached the rooftop observatory. This was the highest point of the entire structure, a small, circular platform open to the vast, encompassing expanse of the night sky. The air here was crisp and cool, carrying the clean scent of the high altitude and the vast, unblemished emptiness above. The world below, with its sleeping village and silent forests, seemed distant, a mere whisper on the horizon. A small, ancient telescope made of dark, polished brass and intricate lenses stood at the center of the platform. Its surface was cool to the touch, reflecting the myriad pinpricks of starlight. The librarian adjusted it with practiced, unhurried movements, its mechanisms moving with a soft, almost inaudible whir and click. This was a tool not for grand scientific discovery in this moment, but for quiet communion with the cosmos, for observing the gentle, timeless dance of the celestial bodies. Through the eyepiece, the moon, now a brilliant, luminous disk, filled the view, its craters and seas revealed in stunning, silent detail. It hung in the blackness, a constant, comforting presence, a silent guardian watching over the sleeping world. Then, with a slow, deliberate movement, the librarian shifted the telescope, scanning the vast canvas of the Milky Way. A shimmering band of countless stars, each one a distant sun, a world unknown. The sheer immensity was not overwhelming, but profoundly humbling, a reminder of the gentle vastness beyond our immediate reach. The sounds on the rooftop were different. The soft, continuous sigh of the wind as it passed over the building's ancient stones, a barely audible hum from the distant village, and the occasional, almost imperceptible rustle of bats as they silently flitted through the night air. These were the sounds of the open night, a grand, overarching symphony of quiet. The cold, clear air on the skin, the sight of countless stars stretching into infinity, and the profound silence, punctuated only by the soft whispers of the wind, combined to create a feeling of serene detachment, an invitation to simply float, weightless in the gentle current of the cosmos. It was here, under this infinite canopy, that the librarian felt the deepest connection to the timeless secrets, those written not in ink, but in light. From the airy expanse of the rooftop, the Night Librarian began their descent, choosing not the hidden spiral but the grand central staircase that was the library's backbone. This magnificent structure was carved from a single, impossibly wide slab of grey marble, its surface worn smooth and concave in the centre of each step by the passage of countless feet over centuries. The air here was cooler than the rooftop, but warmer than the catacombs, a neutral zone that seemed to breathe with the accumulated memory of all who had ascended and descended its stately form. Each step down was a deliberate, quiet act. The soft padding of the librarian's worn shoes on the marble produced a faint, barely audible whisper, a sound quickly absorbed by the vastness of the stairwell. No echoes here, only a gentle resonance, as if the very stone was listening. Along the walls, elaborate tapestries, long faded into muted tones of indigo and forest green, depicted scenes of ancient scholarship, robed figures bending over illuminated manuscripts, philosophers debating beneath sun-drenched arches, astronomers gazing up at star-strewn skies. Their threads, brittle with age, seemed to hold the silent stories of dedication. The banister, a massive railing of dark, polished oak, felt cool and smooth beneath the librarian's hand. Its surface bore the subtle indentations of generations of grips, a tactile connection to the flow of time. As they descended, glimpses of the lower floors appeared through wide, arched openings. The main reading hall, now an expanse of deeper shadow, the silent rows of shelves receding into the distance, like a forest of forgotten knowledge. The distant hum of the clockwork mechanism, barely perceptible from this height, seemed to follow their descent, a steady, rhythmic pulse in the heart of the library. Halfway down, a tall, narrow, stained glass window cast intricate patterns of dim, ghostly colour onto the steps. By day, it would explode with vibrant hues, but now, under the influence of the waning moon, it created a subdued kaleidoscope of deep blues, purples, and faint, mossy greens. The figures depicted in the glass were scholarly saints and mythical muses, their faces serene, their gazes fixed on some distant, unseen wisdom. The cool air wafted up from below, carrying the faint, comforting scent of old paper and dust, a reminder of the vast repository of stories still waiting. The Night Librarian descended to the ground floor, emerging into the grandest space of all, the Great Hall. By day, this hall would have buzzed with the low drone of voices, the rustle of garments, the occasional clatter of a dropped scroll, but now it lay utterly silent, an echoing emptiness that seemed to amplify the quietude. Moonlight pouring through the towering arched windows created vast silver oceans on the polished marble floor, interspersed with pools of impenetrable shadow. Massive stone columns, carved with intricate patterns of ivy and ancient symbols, soared upwards to support the immense vaulted ceiling, which seemed to disappear into the gloom. The air here was vast and cool, carrying the familiar blend of old stone, dust, and the distant, ever-present scent of aged paper. It was a space designed to inspire awe, but in its current silence, it inspired only a profound sense of peace, a quiet meditation on scale and timelessness. The librarian's footsteps, though soft, created the faintest suggestion of a sound, a subtle thump, thump, that seemed to travel across the marble expanse and then gently fade into nothingness. They walked towards the centre of the hall, where a colossal, intricately carved wooden table, large enough to seat dozens, stood like a silent monolith. Its surface, cool and smooth, reflected the pale moonlight like a still pond. One could almost imagine the echoes of ancient feasts, of grand declarations, of whispered conspiracies, all long dissolved into the dust. Against one wall, a massive fireplace, large enough to stand inside, loomed dark and cold. Its blackened stones held the memory of countless fires, the warmth they once provided. No crackling logs now, no dancing flames, just the profound silence of spent embers. Yet the librarian felt a lingering sense of residual warmth, a comfort embedded in the very fabric of the stones. The scent of old soot, dry and earthy, still clung to the air around it. High above, near the ceiling, were small carved alcoves, each holding a silent stone statue of a revered scholar or a mythical figure. Their faces, though unmoving, seemed to observe the hall with a quiet benevolence, their gazes fixed on some distant point beyond the walls. The moonlight caught their chiseled features, creating soft highlights and deep shadows, giving them a ghostly yet comforting presence. They were the silent audience to the library's nocturnal life, the perpetual guardians of its peace. Beyond the main hall, through a pair of heavy bronze doors that barely whispered on their ancient hinges, lay the sunken garden of echoes. This was a unique space, an open-air garden carved several feet below the surrounding ground level, creating a natural acoustic chamber. Its walls were lined with rough, porous stone, and the air here was damp, cool and rich with the scent of moss, damp earth, and the faint, sweet perfume of unseen water. In the centre of the garden, a perfectly still pool of water reflected the starry sky above like a shattered mirror. Around its edges, ancient gnarled trees, their branches twisted into graceful sculptural forms, stood like silent sentinels. Their leaves, dark and glossy, occasionally caught a glint of starlight, shimmering like tiny jewels. The moss that coated the stone walls and crept along the pathways was thick and velvety, absorbing all sound. The garden's unique construction meant that even the softest sound would resonate subtly, creating a gentle, prolonged echo. The Night Librarian would often sit on a smooth, cool stone bench here, simply listening. The sound of their own calm breathing, the gentle rustle of a single leaf disturbed by a light breeze, the distant hoot of an owl. Each sound would be caught, amplified gently, and then slowly fade, like a ripple in the still water. It was a place for profound quiet, for listening to the silence itself. Sometimes a single drop of water would fall from an unseen crevice in the stone wall, hitting the still surface of the pool with a perfect crystalline plink. This single sound would then expand outwards, creating a series of concentric rings on the water and a series of diminishing echoes that seemed to whisper through the stone walls, before finally dissolving into the quiet. It was a meditation on sound, on silence, and on the delicate beauty of both. The scent of wet stone and cool, damp earth was deeply grounding, a soothing presence in the vastness of the night. Back inside, on a smaller, secluded mezzanine overlooking a forgotten corner of the main hall, stood the Cabinet of Curiosities. This was not a formal museum exhibit, but a personal collection, gathered over centuries by various librarians and benefactors, objects that defied easy classification, each one telling a silent, peculiar story. The air here was slightly drier, carrying the faint, almost metallic tang of old leather and a whisper of aged wood. The cabinet itself was a magnificent piece of craftsmanship, a tall, intricately carved wooden structure with dozens of small glass-fronted drawers and shelves. Each compartment held a single, fascinating item, The librarian's lantern cast a warm glow, illuminating the dust motes dancing within the glass, giving each object a luminous aura. One drawer contained a perfectly preserved bird's nest, woven with threads of silver birch bark and lined with the softest moss. Another held a collection of ancient coins, not gleaming gold, but dull, worn copper and silver, each bearing the faded imprint of a forgotten ruler or kingdom. They felt cool and heavy in the palm, whispering tales of long-dissolved markets and silent transactions. On a velvet-lined shelf, a single, perfectly formed geode sat open, its inner cavity sparkling with thousands of tiny, clear quartz crystals. It was a miniature cave, a hidden world of quiet brilliance, reflecting the lantern light in myriad dancing points. Next to it, a small, intricate hourglass, its sand now permanently stuck, a silent testament to time suspended. The fine grains of sand, once flowing freely, were now frozen in their descent, creating a permanent, silent waterfall. Further along, a section was dedicated to ancient writing implements, a small, intricately carved wooden stylus, once used to press cuneiform into clay tablets, a collection of dried, brittle papyrus fragments with faint hieroglyphs, and a tiny, almost delicate inkwell made from polished stone, still holding the faint residue of what might have been the deepest black ink. Each item was a tangible link to the act of creation, to the endless human desire to record, to remember. The sounds in this small chamber were minimal, dominated by the soft creak of the floorboards as the librarian moved, and the occasional gentle clink as a small drawer was opened and closed. The profound quiet allowed for a deep appreciation of each object, a silent conversation with the hands that once held them and the eyes that once gazed upon them. It was a room filled with quiet wonder, a gentle invitation to explore the quirky, beautiful remnants of human curiosity from ages past. At the very top of the library, tucked away in a small, soundproofed turret, was the music room. This wasn't a grand performance hall, designed for booming orchestras or dramatic solos, but rather a place of quiet practice and harmonious contemplation. The air here was noticeably lighter, purer, carrying the faint, sweet scent of aged wood. This was not the earthy aroma of old shelves, but the refined perfume of finely crafted instruments, a subtle, lingering essence of old varnish, like a ghost of countless polishing sessions hung delicately in the air, inviting a sense of gentle stillness. Moonlight, now a soft diffused silver, poured generously through a circular rose window. It wasn't direct, harsh light, but a gentle, almost dreamlike luminescence that cast intricate, kaleidoscopic patterns of muted colour onto the polished wooden floor. These patterns shifted and danced with the subtle sway of the moon's passage, creating a visual symphony of light and shadow that was endlessly mesmerising in its quiet beauty. The very dust motes suspended in the air seemed to glow, caught in these ethereal beams, twinkling like microscopic stars in their slow, silent descent. Instruments stood like silent sentinels, awaiting their moment of gentle interaction. A grand lute, its strings loose and quiet, leaned against a velvet-draped stand. Its wooden body, smooth and polished to a deep, resonant gleam, held the profound memory of countless strummed chords. One could almost feel the vibrations of past melodies lingering within its aged heart, a quiet hum of forgotten songs. A small, intricately carved flute lay nestled on a cushioned box, its finger holes whispering of melodies long since played, of breath gently coaxed into harmonious sound. Each hole seemed to hold a tiny, trapped echo of a note once played. And in the very centre of the room, positioned with a quiet dignity, a clavichord sat, its keys a silent, ivory smile, waited patiently for the touch of a gentle hand. The delicate, almost fragile mechanism within, designed for subtle, intimate tones, seemed to hold its breath in the profound quiet. The polished surfaces of all these instruments reflected the moonlight like still pools, creating an illusion of depth and quiet luminosity, inviting the eye to linger and the mind to dream. The librarian would often pause here, not to play, for that was not their role in this silent hour, but simply to listen. It was a unique kind of listening, not to overt melodies, but to the deep, resonant silence that was pregnant with unspoken music. This was a silence filled with ghostly echoes of melodies once played within these very walls, a symphony composed of stillness itself, the faint scent of resin and beeswax meticulously used to polish and preserve these precious instruments hung in the air, a constant, comforting reminder of the care taken to preserve these vessels of sound. Sometimes, a sudden, gentle gust of wind outside the turret would cause a loose window pane to vibrate, creating a soft, almost imperceptible hum. It was like a single, drawn-out note, a sustained tone that merged seamlessly with the ambient quiet. Or a distant branch from a towering tree outside would lightly tap against the exterior wall, creating a faint, rhythmic tap-tap-tap. These natural sounds, gentle and unpredictable, became part of the room's silent symphony, weaving themselves into the fabric of its profound quietude. It was a place for listening deeply, not to the grand overtures of the day, but to the subtle music of stillness, of the world breathing around you in the quiet hours. The intricate carvings on the lute, the delicate filigree on the flute, invited a close, contemplative gaze. Each detail spoke of craftsmanship, of dedication, of the human desire to create beauty and harmony. This room, though silent, vibrated with a profound sense of potential, of unspoken stories waiting to be sung, of melodies suspended in time, ready to gently carry the mind into restful dreams. The very air seemed to hold a breath of expectation, a quiet hum that was both soothing and infinitely intriguing. Deep within the very heart of the library, a part rarely accessed even by the Night Librarian themselves, lay the inner sanctum. This wasn't a room in the traditional sense with distinct boundaries or furnishings, but rather a small circular antechamber. Its walls were composed of rough, unadorned stone, perpetually cool and damp, giving the space an ancient, almost primordial. The air here was distinct from anywhere else in the library, profoundly cold and damp, carrying the distinct scent of wet stone, deep earth, and a faint, almost metallic coolness that spoke of hidden minerals. In its very centre, surrounded by a low, moss-covered stone wall, was a narrow, dark opening, the Whispering Well. It was said, in whispers that had filtered through the library's long history, to tap into the very subterranean rivers that flowed beneath the library's colossal foundations. Its waters, deep below, were believed to murmur ancient secrets, carrying tales of geological shifts and the slow, inexorable churn of the earth itself. The librarian's lantern light seemed to struggle here, its golden glow absorbed by the sheer immensity of the well's unseen depths, offering only a glimpse into the inky blackness. The primary and almost singular sound in this sanctum was the gentle, continuous, almost inaudible murmur of water far below. It was not a gushing or rushing sound like a waterfall or a swift stream, but a soft, constant whisper. It was like countless voices speaking in unison, too far away to discern any individual word, yet always present, a continuous soothing thrum that filled the profound silence. Sometimes, a tiny, almost imperceptible splash would emanate from the depths, a single droplet reaching the surface of the unseen water far below, creating a quiet, rhythmic plink, plink, plink that resonated softly through the subterranean quiet before gently fading. The Night Librarian would approach the well cautiously, their movements deliberate and respectful. They never peered directly into its darkness, for the abyss held its own mysteries, but simply listened. The cool, damp air rising from the well's opening carried a profound sense of deep time, of secrets held within the very bedrock of the world. It was a primal sound, a reminder of the earth's enduring presence, its slow, continuous processes of creation and erosion. The moss on the well's rim was velvety and cool to the touch, its tiny tendrils clinging tightly to the ancient stone, absorbing any stray sound. The whispers from the well were never distinct words, never clear messages. Instead, they were more like the collective dreams of the earth itself, the slow geological murmurs of ages. They spoke of the shifting plates that formed continents, of vast subterranean currents, of the patient, relentless erosion of stone, of the ceaseless journey of underground rivers carving paths through the dark. It was a sound that invited not interpretation or intellectual analysis, but rather a quiet surrender, a gentle absorption into the deep foundational rhythms of the planet. And as the librarian stood there, breathing in the cool, damp air, listening to the eternal, gentle whispers, a sense of profound peace, a deep, unburdened stillness settled over them, preparing the mind for the deepest, most restorative sleep. Stepping back from the profound depths of the whispering well, the Night Librarian made their way once more through the winding passages, re-emerging into the peaceful embrace of the forgotten courtyard garden. The air here felt subtly different now, a fraction warmer, carrying the renewed dampness of the night. The moon, having climbed higher, cast a more direct, silvery light over the entire space, revealing new details in its soft glow. The moss-covered flagstones, previously shrouded in deeper shadow, now glistened faintly, tiny dewdrops clinging to their velvety surface like microscopic diamonds. The ancient, gnarled trees, their branches twisting skyward, appeared as majestic silhouettes against the backdrop of the star-strewn canvas. Each leaf seemed to shimmer with a delicate, internal light, catching and reflecting the ethereal glow from above. The gentle trickle of the fountain in the center of the courtyard, previously a soft murmur, now seemed slightly more pronounced, its continuous sound weaving itself into the fabric of the night's stillness. The Night Librarian observed the subtle dance of nocturnal life within this hidden sanctuary. A lone moth, its wings like velvet, fluttered silently around a cluster of night-blooming jasmine, drawn by its intoxicatingly sweet perfume. Its delicate movements were almost imperceptible. A gentle ballet performed for an audience of one. Further along, a tiny beetle, its iridescent shell gleaming faintly in the moonlight, slowly navigated the intricate terrain of a mossy stone, its small legs moving with a quiet, determined rhythm. The shadows themselves seemed to have softened, becoming less stark and more inviting, dissolving into shades of deep indigo and charcoal. The scent of the night-blooming flowers intensified, filling the air with a heavy, intoxicating sweetness that was both comforting and subtly exhilarating. It was the fragrance of the world breathing in its sleep, releasing its most delicate perfumes into the hushed expanse of the night. The Night Librarian took a deep, calming breath, allowing the cool, sweet air to fill their lungs, feeling the tranquil essence of the garden permeate their very being. This courtyard, a small world unto itself, demonstrated the quiet resilience of nature thriving in its secluded peace. The gentle rustle of leaves, stirred by the softest of breezes, was like a lullaby sung by the trees themselves. The faint whisper of the fountain, the silent flutter of insect wings, the profound stillness of the ancient stone walls, all combined to create an atmosphere of deep, unburdened serenity. A perfect symphony for a mind drifting towards peaceful dreams. Making their way back inside, through a service door often overlooked, the Night Librarian found themselves drawn to a particular corner of the library's oldest, least used service wing. This was the old library kitchen, a space that, even in its current disuse, still hummed with the gentle echoes of hearth and home. It wasn't a grand, bustling kitchen like those in a noble's estate, but a cosy, stone-lined space that spoke of simple sustenance and quiet warmth. Moonlight barely reached here, making the librarian's lanterns glow particularly inviting, casting soft, dancing patterns on the rough-hewn stone walls. A massive, old stone hearth dominated one wall, its chimney opening blackened with centuries of smoke and soot. Though no fire burned now, the residual warmth from countless past blazes lingered in the deep, porous stones. It was a gentle, comforting presence, a ghost of heat that subtly warmed the cool night air, inviting one to linger. One could almost hear the faint crackle of long-extinguished logs, the soft hiss of simmering pots, the quiet murmur of voices gathered around its comforting glow. The scent of old soot, dry and earthy, still clung to the air around it, mingling with other, more elusive aromas. On a simple, sturdy wooden table, worn smooth by years of use, stood a collection of ancient hand-painted ceramic mugs. They were chipped and worn at the edges, their glazes faded to soft, muted tones, but still exuding a rustic, endearing charm. Each mug seemed to hold the echo of countless shared sips, of quiet conversations whispered over warm, steaming brews. The librarian gently ran a finger over the smooth, cool rim of one mug, feeling the faint imperfections in its ceramic, a testament to its handmade origins and long history. On a nearby narrow shelf, carefully labelled jars, their glass cloudy with age, held dried ingredients. These were not culinary staples in the common sense, but a curious assortment of botanicals known for their soothing properties. Sleep-inducing poppy petals, their delicate papery texture barely visible through the glass. Memory-enhancing mugwort, its leaves curled and dark. Memory-enhancing rosemary, its pine-like scent still subtly detectable. These were the ingredients for gentle herbal infusions. Simple brews designed not for feasting, but to soothe the mind, clarify thoughts, or invite peaceful sleep. The librarian imagined the quiet, deliberate process of preparing these ancient brews, the slow heating of water in a blackened copper pot, the gentle hiss as steam began to rise. Then, the careful, almost ritualistic measuring of herbs, their subtle aromas released into the warm air. Finally, the quiet steeping, as the essence slowly infused the liquid, patiently releasing its calming properties, the rhythmic clink of the copper pot being moved, the soft scrape of a wooden spoon stirring, the gentle gurgle of water as it reached its peak heat. All these phantom sounds contributed to the room's deep, ambient tranquility. The sounds here were particularly soothing. The very walls seemed to hum with a gentle, ambient warmth, a warmth that extended beyond temperature to encompass a sense of deep comfort. The occasional soft creak of the old wooden ceiling above, or the distant, muffled drip of water from an unseen pipe deep within the library's foundations, added to the atmospheric quiet. The rhythmic rasp of the librarian's thumb gently caressing the rough ceramic surface of an old mug, a comforting, repetitive motion, became a subtle background melody. It was a space that spoke of sustenance, not just for the body, but for the soul. A quiet haven where the practical art of living intertwined with the ethereal realm of dreams, inviting a profound sense of inner peace. The Night Librarian now made their way back to the heart of the library's internal rhythm, the Clockwork chamber. This wasn't a public space, but a hidden sanctuary where the relentless yet soothing march of time was made visible, tangible, and surprisingly melodic. The air here was distinct, crisp and cool, yet with a subtle metallic tang that spoke of brass and intricate mechanisms. Moonlight, diffused and softened by distant windows, barely touched this inner sanctum, leaving it to the librarian's lantern to cast its warm, inviting glow. The chamber was dominated by a grand, almost architectural clockwork mechanism. It was not a modern, precise device ticking loudly, but an ancient marvel of brass, polished iron, and dark, resonant wood. Gears, some as small as a thumbnail, others as large as a dinner plate, interlocked in a complex, mesmerizing dance. Their surfaces, worn smooth by centuries of continuous movement, reflected the lantern light in soft, muted gleams. Weighted pendulums, massive and stately, swung with a slow, unhurried rhythm, their movements a hypnotic ballet. Levers and cams, intricately shaped, moved with deliberate slowness, guiding the precise, unyielding ballet of time. The sounds in this chamber were not harsh ticks or loud chimes, but a symphony of subtle, continuous movements, the gentle hum of brass on brass, a soft, almost imperceptible vibration that permeated the air, the delicate click of a gear engaging, a tiny, precise sound that spoke of perfect alignment, the almost inaudible whoosh of air displaced by a slowly moving weight, a soft, ethereal sigh. It was the sound of time breathing, of existence unfolding at its own measured, unwavering pace. The library approached, their movements as steady and quiet as the mechanism itself, and the warm glow of their lantern glinted off the polished surfaces, making the brass gears shimmer like submerged gold. This particular clockwork didn't just tell time in hours and minutes, it embodied the grander cycles of the universe. Above the main mechanism, a small, circular opening in the ceiling, rarely noticed from below, revealed a patch of the night sky. As the clockwork turned, tiny, almost invisible figures etched onto glass discs slowly rotated, mimicking the majestic, timeless movements of the stars and constellations. One disc showed the subtle phases of the moon, another the almost imperceptible tilt of the earth, meticulously marking the changing seasons with a quiet precision. It was a miniature cosmos, a microcosm reflecting the vastness outside, inviting contemplation of grand scales within a quiet, confined space. Contemplating the intricate design, the librarian felt a sense of profound, quiet awe. Each component, no matter how small, no matter how seemingly insignificant, played a crucial, indispensable role in the grand design of the mechanism. It was a powerful metaphor for the library itself. Countless individual stories, facts, and ideas, each seemingly small on its own, all interlocked to form a vast, coherent body of knowledge that spanned centuries. And within this complex mechanism, there was a profound sense of order, a comforting predictability that anchored the ever-shifting, often chaotic world outside. The subtle, rhythmic hum of the clockwork became a deep, resonant lullaby, a testament to the enduring, unwavering presence of time itself, a sound that gently cradled the mind towards a deep, unburdened sleep. The very air seemed to vibrate with a deep, calming frequency. The deep blue of night outside the library windows began its slow, almost imperceptible surrender to the approaching dawn. The moon, now a pale, translucent disk, hung low in the sky, its silver light softening into a faint, ethereal glow that hinted at the sun's imminent arrival. The profound shadows within the main reading hall, once stark and deep, began their subtle retreat, losing their sharp edges, slowly yielding to the encroaching gentle light. The air, though still cool, carried a new, crisp freshness, a subtle, invigorating hint of the world reawakening. The Night Librarian performed their final, quiet walkthrough, a ritual of farewell to the night's duties. Their movements, already graceful and silent throughout the hours, now possessed an added sense of quiet completion, a peaceful fulfillment. They glided through the vast hall, their presence almost like a phantom, checking each section one last time, ensuring every book was nestled securely in its place, every scroll carefully protected within its confines. There was a lingering touch on a worn book spine, a moment of silent acknowledgement to the countless voices contained within these walls, a silent promise to return. From a distant window, a single bird, perhaps an early robin, offered its first tentative chirp. A soft, clear note, piercing the profound stillness with the delicate, hopeful promise of a new day. Then another joined, and another, building into a gentle, harmonious chorus that signaled the world outside was slowly stirring from its slumber. The faint, earthy smell of morning dew, carried on the gentlest of breezes, drifted in through a slightly opened vent near the grand entrance, mingling subtly with the library's ancient aromas, creating a unique, comforting blend of old and new. These were not loud awakenings, no jarring sounds, but gentle stirrings, like a sleeper reluctantly, softly drifting back to consciousness. The first hint of orange and pink began to paint the eastern horizon, a soft watercolor wash across the sky. The stars, once so vibrant and numerous, now began their slow fade, becoming mere pinpricks of light against the lightening canvas, eventually disappearing altogether as the sun's first rays prepared to breach the horizon. The cycle was complete. Another night of guarding, of silent exploration, of preserving the gentle whispers of old eras had passed into the annals of time. The library's secrets remained, nestled securely within its vast collection, waiting patiently for the cloak of darkness to descend once more, inviting another night of quiet discovery. Their work, like the turning of the seasons, like the steady hum of the ancient clockwork, was never truly done, but was always peaceful, always cyclical, always fulfilling. And as the sun's first golden rays finally kissed the highest peaks of the library roof, painting the ancient stone in hues of warm light, the Night Librarian slipped away. Their silhouette, once a part of the shadows, now faded into the brightening morning, leaving the library once more to its slumber, its dreams filled with forgotten stories, its vast halls awaiting the next quiet watch. Back inside, on a smaller, secluded mezzanine, overlooking a forgotten corner of the main hall, stood the Cabinet of Curiosities. This wasn't a formal museum exhibit designed for public display with ropes and explanatory plaques. No, it was a personal collection, gathered over centuries by various librarians and benefactors, a unique assortment of objects that defied easy classification, each one telling a silent, peculiar story of its own. The air here was subtly distinct, slightly drier than the grand hall below. It carried the faint, almost nostalgic tang of old leather, a whisper of aged wood, and a hint of the dry, brittle dust that clung to forgotten treasures. The cabinet itself was a magnificent piece of craftsmanship, a tall, intricately carved wooden structure, likely oak or perhaps walnut, darkened and smoothed by time. It boasted dozens of small glass-fronted drawers and shelves, each compartment a tiny world waiting to be explored. The librarian's lantern, held steadily, cast a warm, inviting glow, illuminating the dust motes dancing within the glass panes, giving each object a luminous, almost ethereal aura, as if they held a faint inner light. One drawer, pulled open with a soft, gentle scrape, contained a perfectly preserved bird's nest. It wasn't a common sparrow's nest, but one intricately woven with threads of shimmering silver birch bark, its delicate structure surprisingly intact despite the passage of untold years. It was lined with the softest, almost gossamer-like moss, still retaining a faint hint of its verdant colour. One could almost imagine the tiny, silent eggs that once nestled within, or the soft chirps of hatchlings now long flown. It was a testament to nature's artistry, preserved in human curiosity. Another compartment held a small, humble collection of ancient coins. These were not gleaming gold or polished silver meant for display of wealth. Instead, they were dull, worn copper and silver, their surfaces smoothed by countless exchanges, each bearing the faded, almost indiscernible imprint of a forgotten ruler or a long-dissolved kingdom. They felt cool and surprisingly heavy in the palm, whispering quiet tales of long-dissolved markets, of silent transactions made in dusty squares, of the subtle weight of commerce in a bygone era. Each coin was a tiny, tangible echo of 1,000 forgotten hands. On a velvet-lined shelf, nestled softly, a single, perfectly formed geode sat open. Its rough, unadorned outer shell gave no hint of the hidden beauty within, but its inner cavity sparkled with thousands of tiny, clear quartz crystals, each one a miniature facet reflecting the librarian's lantern light. It was a miniature cave, a hidden world of quiet brilliance, its crystalline forms catching the light in myriad dancing points, creating a silent, glittering spectacle. Next to it, a small, intricate hourglass, its fine grains of sand now permanently stuck, served as a silent testament to time suspended, frozen in its relentless descent. Further along, a section was dedicated to ancient writing implements, tools that had once breathed life into parchment and clay. There was a small, intricately carved wooden stylus, its tip worn smooth, once used to press the elegant forms of cuneiform into soft clay tablets, echoing the earliest forms of human record-keeping. Beside it lay a collection of dried, brittle papyrus fragments, their fibrous surfaces fragile, with faint hieroglyphs or faded scripts barely discernible, like ghosts of forgotten messages. And nearby, a tiny, almost delicate inkwell made from polished stone, still holding the faint dry residue of what might have been the deepest black ink, a pigment that had once flowed freely, bringing words to life. Each item in the cabinet of curiosities was a tangible link to the act of creation, to the endless human desire to record, to remember, to understand the world around them. The sounds in this small chamber were minimal, dominated by the soft creak of the floorboards as the librarian moved, their steps light and deliberate, the occasional gentle clink as a small drawer was opened and then carefully closed, resonated softly in the quiet. The profound quiet allowed for a deep appreciation of each object, a silent conversation with the hands that once held them and the eyes that once gazed upon them. It was a room filled with quiet wonder, a gentle invitation to explore the quirky, beautiful remnants of human curiosity from ages past, a soothing balm for the curious mind. Beyond the main hall, through a pair of heavy bronze doors that barely whispered on their ancient hinges, a sound so soft it was more felt than heard, lay the sunken garden of echoes. This was a truly unique space, an open-air garden carved several feet below the surrounding ground level, forming a natural, clandestine amphitheatre. Its walls were lined with rough, porous stone, perpetually cool and damp, giving the space an earthy, ancient feel. The air here was noticeably cooler and richer with the scent of deep moss, damp earth and the faint, sweet perfume of unseen water, perhaps trickling from unseen fissures. In the very centre of the garden, a perfectly still, shallow pool of water lay like a black mirror, reflecting the starry sky above in stunning, unblemished clarity. Each star was a tiny dancing pinprick of light on its surface, creating a shattered galaxy. Around its edges, ancient gnarled trees, their branches twisted into graceful sculptural forms, stood like silent sentinels, their dark silhouettes stark against the night sky. Their leaves, dark and glossy even in the dim light, occasionally caught a glint of starlight, shimmering like tiny jewels, trembling with the faintest breath of wind. The moss that coated the stone walls and crept along the flagstone pathways was incredibly thick and velvety, a lush carpet that absorbed almost all sound. It was this unique characteristic, combined with the garden's sunken construction, that meant even the softest sound would resonate subtly, creating a gentle, prolonged echo that was almost imperceptible to the untrained ear. The Night Librarian would often sit on a smooth, cool stone bench here, its surface worn by centuries of quiet contemplation, simply listening. The sound of their own calm, steady breathing, the almost imperceptible rustle of a single leaf disturbed by a light breeze, the distant hoot of an owl from the surrounding forest. Each sound would be caught, amplified gently, and then slowly fade, like a ripple in the still water of the central pool. It was a place for profound quiet, for listening to the silence itself, a meditation on the absence of sound. Sometimes, a single drop of water, having condensed deep within the stone, would fall from an unseen crevice in the rough wall, hitting the perfectly still surface of the pool with a perfect crystalline plink. This singular, pure sound would then expand outwards, creating a series of concentric rings on the water, spreading slowly to the very edges of the pool. Simultaneously, a series of diminishing echoes, like tiny whispers, would seem to emanate from within the stone walls, softly bouncing and fading before finally dissolving completely into the vast quiet. It was a meditation on sound, on silence, and on the delicate beauty of both. A testament to the garden's unique acoustic magic. The scent of wet stone and cool, damp earth was deeply grounding, a raw, natural perfume that permeated the space. It was a soothing presence in the vastness of the night, a reminder of the fundamental elements that composed the world. The cool, fresh air, combined with the profound quiet and the subtle echoing sounds, created an atmosphere of deep, unburdened serenity, a sense of being utterly enveloped in nature's gentle embrace. It was here that the librarian felt the most primal connection to the forgotten library's very foundations, a place where the earth itself seemed to whisper its ancient secrets in soft, resonant tones, inviting the mind to quiet itself and drift. Deep within the oldest, least used service wing of the library, almost forgotten by the passage of time and the bustling daytime world, the Night Librarian often found themselves drawn to a small, unassuming room. This was the old library kitchen. It was not a grand, bustling kitchen like those in a noble's estate designed for elaborate feasts, but a cosy stone-lined space that, even in its current disuse, still hummed with the gentle, comforting echoes of hearth and home. Moonlight barely reached this secluded corner, making the librarian's lanterns glow particularly inviting, casting soft, dancing patterns on the rough-hewn, uneven stone walls, creating an intimate, warm ambience. A massive, old stone hearth dominated one entire wall, its chimney opening blackened and smoothed by centuries of smoke and countless past blazes. Though no fire burned now, no crackling logs or dancing flames, the profound residual warmth from those countless fires lingered deeply in the porous stones. It was a gentle, comforting presence, a ghost of heat that subtly warmed the cool night air, drawing one closer, inviting one to linger. One could almost hear the faint phantom crackle of long-extinguished logs, the soft hiss of simmering pots, the quiet murmur of voices that once gathered around its comforting, fiery glow, all dissolved into the dust of memory. On a simple, sturdy wooden table that stood in the centre, worn smooth and dark by years of diligent use, stood a collection of ancient, hand-painted ceramic mugs. They were chipped and worn at the edges, their glazes faded to soft, muted tones of earth and sky, but still exuding a rustic, endearing charm. Each mug, with its faint imperfections and unique shape, seemed to hold the echo of countless shared sips, of quiet conversations whispered over warm, steaming brews, of hands wrapped around warmth on cold nights. The librarian gently ran a finger over the smooth, cool rim of one mug, feeling the faint, almost imperceptible imperfections in its ceramic, a testament to its handmade origins and long practical history. On a nearby, narrow wooden shelf, carefully labelled jars, their glass cloudy and dulled with age, held a curious assortment of dried ingredients. These were not culinary staples in the common sense, no flour or sugar, but a unique collection of botanicals known for their soothing, almost ethereal properties. Sleep-inducing poppy petals, their delicate, papery texture barely visible through the cloudy glass, hinting at a gentle oblivion. Dream-weaving mugwort, its leaves curled and dark, promising journeys into the subconscious. Memory-enhancing rosemary, its pine-like invigorating scent still subtly detectable even after years, hinting at clarity. These were the ingredients for gentle herbal infusions, simple brews designed not for feasting or energy, but to soothe the mind, clarify thoughts, or invite peaceful, restorative sleep. The librarian imagined the quiet, deliberate process of preparing these ancient brews. The slow, patient heating of pure water in a blackened copper pot, the gentle hiss as steam began to rise in soft tendrils, filling the air with warmth. Then, the careful, almost ritualistic measuring of herbs, their subtle, hidden aromas released into the warm, humid air as they were spooned into the pot. Finally, the quiet steeping as the essence slowly infused the liquid, patiently releasing its calming properties, a slow dance of extraction and transformation. The rhythmic clink of the copper pot being moved, the soft scrape of a wooden spoon stirring, the gentle gurgle of water as it reached its peak heat. All these phantom sounds contributed to the room's deep, ambient tranquility, like a forgotten melody. The sounds here were particularly soothing, distinct from the grand echoes of the main hall or the sharp clicks of the clockwork. The very walls seemed to hum with a gentle, ambient warmth, a warmth that extended beyond mere temperature to encompass a sense of deep, abiding comfort. The occasional soft creak of the old wooden ceiling above, or the distant, muffled drip of water from an unseen pipe deep within the library's foundations, added to the atmospheric quiet, creating a gentle, natural rhythm. The rhythmic rasp of the librarian's thumb, gently caressing the rough ceramic surface of an old mug, a comforting, repetitive motion, became a subtle background melody, a personal anchor in the vast silence. It was a space that spoke profoundly of sustenance, not just for the body, but for the soul, a quiet haven where the practical art of living intertwined with the ethereal realm of dreams, inviting a profound sense of inner peace. The deep blue of night outside the library windows began its slow, almost imperceptible surrender to the approaching dawn. It was a delicate transition, not a sudden burst of light, but a gradual softening of the darkness. The moon, now a pale, translucent disk, hung low in the sky, its silver light, once so sharp and clear, softening into a faint ethereal glow that hinted at the sun's imminent powerful arrival. The profound shadows within the main reading hall, which had clung so stubbornly to every corner, began their subtle retreat, losing their sharp, defined edges, slowly yielding to the encroaching, gentle light that diffused through the high windows. The Night Librarian performed their final, quiet walkthrough, a cherished ritual of farewell to the night's duties. Their movements, already graceful and silent throughout the long hours, now possessed an added sense of quiet completion, a peaceful fulfillment that resonated deep within their being. They glided through the vast hall, their presence almost like a phantom, checking each section one last time, ensuring every book was nestled securely in its place, every scroll carefully protected within its confines. There was a lingering, gentle touch on a worn book spine, a moment of silent acknowledgement to the countless voices contained within these walls, a silent promise to return, to continue the guardianship. From a distant window, a single bird, perhaps an early robin or a persistent thrush, offered its first tentative chirp. It was a soft, clear note, piercing the profound stillness of the library with the delicate, hopeful promise of a new day. Then another joined, and another, their individual calls weaving together, building into a gentle, harmonious chorus that signaled the world outside was slowly stirring from its deep slumber. The faint, earthy smell of morning dew, carried on the gentlest of breezes, drifted in through a slightly opened vent near the grand entrance, mingling subtly with the library's ancient aromas. The dry scent of parchment, the rich scent of old wood, creating a unique, comforting blend of old and new, of wilderness and wisdom. These were not loud, jarring awakenings, no sudden noises to disrupt the quietude, but gentle stirrings, like a sleeper reluctantly, softly drifting back to consciousness from a deep, peaceful dream. The first hint of orange and pink began to paint the eastern horizon, a soft watercolor wash across the sky, deepening from pale rose to a fiery gold. The stars, once so vibrant and numerous, which had glittered like diamonds throughout the night, now began their slow fade, becoming mere pinpricks of light against the lightening canvas, eventually disappearing altogether as the sun's first powerful golden rays prepared to breach the horizon. The cycle was complete. Another night of guarding, of silent exploration, of preserving the gentle whispers of old eras had passed into the annals of time. The library's secrets remained, nestled securely within its vast collection, held in trust by its silent walls, waiting patiently for the cloak of darkness to descend once more, inviting another night of quiet discovery, another journey into its depths. Their work, like the turning of the seasons, like the steady, unwavering hum of the ancient clockwork deep within the library's heart, was never truly done, but was always peaceful, always cyclical, always fulfilling, a timeless dance with knowledge. And as the sun's first golden rays finally kissed the highest peaks of the library roof, painting the ancient stone in hues of warm, vibrant light, the Night Librarians slipped away. Their silhouette, once a part of the shadows, now faded seamlessly into the brightening morning, becoming one with the rising light. They left the library once more to its slumber, its vast halls now filled with the gentle, dreaming silence of daytime, its untold stories awaiting the next quiet watch. And now, as the gentle light of dawn finds its way into your own quiet space, perhaps you too can feel the soft, profound embrace of this ancient library. Let the images of old books, of quiet discoveries, of gentle rhythmic sounds lull your mind into a state of profound peace. Allow the lingering scent of aged paper and polished wood to carry you deeper into a peaceful slumber, adrift into a world where the whispers of old eras will guard your dreams, ensuring a night of deep, undisturbed rest, a sanctuary for your weary mind. Sleep now, and let the forgotten stories unfold in the stillness of your own quiet mind, guiding you gently into the restorative embrace of dreamless sleep.